So my name is Bhaskar Malladi. I'm you know representing Agape Diagnostics, and I'm going to present today IVD market and innovations. And thank you organizers for giving this opportunity, and also the audience for listening to me today. So at the outset, I just want to show it to you about the landscape in India, about the medical devices market. And currently, this market is estimated to medical devices alone is estimated to be about $12 billion and expected to reach 30 billion by 2030. There is also a strong inflow of for medical devices, totaling about $2.5 billion in the previous year. And this is something which is coming from technology companies coming into India, setting up the manufacturing you know setups, and so this is a very encouraging sign as far as FDA inflows in medical devices is concerned. In addition to that, the market size of IVD is about 2 billion, and it is expected to double in the next 5 years. And there are several medical device parks in place already, and they are also attracting investments to build manufacturing capacity for Make in India initiative. Telemedicine, point of care testing are expected to improve the overall reach through improved wellness centers focused by government, which is actually going to spend and revive this a lot of wellness or primary healthcare centers across the country. So just move on to what is the market size of IVD in India. As I said before, is about $2 billion roughly, and it's going to double it. But the primary segments in this IVD are clinical chemistry, about $400 million. Immunochemistry is something the largest of all the segments of $450 million, and then followed by hematology, which is about roughly close to about $200 million. There are other areas like molecular diagnostics, POC, and coagulation is also growing pretty strong. And all these figures, as I mentioned, is without any COVID, because COVID is being one-off in the last couple of years. So this market size does not include the COVID-related sales happened in 20 or 21. Of course, some of this core business is affected by the lockdowns of COVID, because labs have not been functional for about 6 months. But however, after COVID, the core business has come back to its normal double-digit rate growth, and at this point of time, the core business is growing very strong across all segments, and all in all, it may reach about $2 billion by end of this year. Moving on to a bit more about immunoassay market, as this is the biggest segment. As you can see that there are different technologies which are being used by customers. The primary one is CLIA, which is almost close to about 70% of the total immunoassay market, because CLIA is the latest technology, the most sensitive technology currently available, followed by fluorescence immunoassay, then by immunofluorescence assay. Then you have ELISA assays as well as RDTs. So this is a segment which is very exciting, and it's growing above mid double-digit growth, close to 15% to 18%. And there are exciting biomarkers which are coming out from this area, which is actually are going to lead the growth going forward in the next 5 to 10 years. Then about clinical chemistry market, which is also quite a significant one. The traditional market of general biochemistry tests, which is about $400 million, where it was seriously affected during the COVID times in 2020. But now it is back to very steady growth, again growing at about double-digit growth. And we believe that it will continue to be growing at a double digit in the next 5 to 10 years down. So what are the growth drivers for this, IVD market growth? The major growth driver is the disease incidence. I think that is going to be the primary driver. As you can see, India is diabetes capital with more than 100 million diabetics. It may go up to 135 million by 2045. And then you have cardiovascular, which is also a significant disease burden, which is 30% of the global burden, which is almost 40 to 50 million people. Then you have cancer, which is also a significant one as far as India is concerned, 2.7 million people living with cancer. A lot of deaths happening on this area. And then you have infectious diseases like non-communicable, communicable diseases. And finally, about the mental and neuro disorders. This is also catching up, especially with more and more in a population, older generation, where we have Alzheimer's is something which is going to a significant disease burden. Already we have about 5 million identified Alzheimer's in this country. So overall, the high prevalence of lifestyle diseases is going to lead to the increased immunoassay testing. Especially, there are very specific markers which are available today, and more and more new markers are coming up. And therefore, the immunoassay market is going to something very exciting with the increasing disease burden of about these 4 or 5 important lifestyle diseases. What are the other growth drivers? For example, the industry changes which are happening right now. The big data, again, this is something which can assist physicians and provide helpful insights, thereby improving the quality of care and outcomes. We have a significant number of startups, which are, more than 250 in the medical technology startups, and they have raised close to about 2 billion. And this is also something which is going to drive a significant technology change and then thereby overall growth. The other 2 areas are wearable devices, simple to use, something like glucose monitoring, blood pressure monitoring, even ECG monitoring. There are now compact, wearable devices are available, and wearable could also help in health or mental health related issues, and getting very, very popular among the customers. Finally, on the home healthcare is something which is really growing up these last couple of years, especially during COVID days, and even going forward. It's also something which is going to save a lot of hospitalization, hospital visits, and also expenditure of close to about 20%. And this is something which is going to reach about $20 billion by another 5 years with a CAGR of about 20%. So these are the 2 key growth drivers for IVDs. And now I wanted to give you a couple of examples about the new innovations which are actually going to change the way the diagnosis is being done and going to be very useful for the patients, all the stakeholders, including physicians. One of the emerging tests is point of care testing. No doubt after COVID, it has become very popular and it has made a lot of progress. One of the examples I wanted to show you to you is a new technology which is simple to use. As you can see, both sickle cell anemia and thalassemia are a very significant disease burden in India. Although it's particularly located some of the tribal areas across the country, but as you can see, uh, the present you know incidence is pretty high. The traits are almost close to about 10%. The identified patients are close to about 1 to 2%. And this is a very life-threatening and also requires, uh, you know, a diagnostic test, which is essential to identify these traits. Traditionally, so far, it is the gold standard is HPLC. And it's a very gold standard test and very complex test in the sense that it requires specialized equipment, and also can be done only in high-end laboratories or hospitals having this kind of HPLC equipment. And the cost per test is significantly high. Affordability has been a big issue. If you look at the left side of it, there is a small point of care device, which is very easy to use and takes about 12 minutes to get the similar kind of results. And also battery operated. That means you can take it to really tribal areas, very, rural areas across the country. And even a very simple, ASHA worker would be able to even conduct this test. So that means it's cost-wise, it's pretty small amount compared to a current test. Probably going to cost about 200 rupees per test. But the quality of results is almost equivalent to the extent of 98, 99%. And that is good enough for a screening program to take place across the country. And you would be able to identify the traits early. And thereby you can help the people in terms of, therapy monitoring or, helping them with, kind of drugs they would be requiring. And since it's a lifelong, disease, early screening is very, very important, and that would help them to save a lot of lives as well as costs which are associated. So it's a very simple. It's about kind of handheld kind of a thing. You can take it anywhere you want. This kind of device. And we have done a lot of studies here in India. A lot of studies are also available on this device. And a lot of laboratories started using it, and I'm sure this kind of device will become very, very popular. So this is one of the examples of point of care. There could be many other examples which are emerging and making it very easy, which is otherwise not possible in the past to do it in a rural setups or in a public healthcare centers. Or community healthcare centers. The second example, which is also very exciting and is also very important for a country like India, is TB. And government is putting a lot of emphasis on TB eradication, planned to do by 2030. And India is having a very significant burden of TB among the, all the countries in the world. And the traditional way of doing it is microscopy and then followed by culture, which is the gold standard. Now, both of them have its own pitfalls when it comes to the sensitivity. Of course, culture takes a lot of time, almost 3 weeks to get it done. And it also costs a little bit higher on the side, whereas microscopy, it is easy to use. But as you can see, sensitivity is just about 50%. That means you miss a lot of cases. And it's very cheap, but you miss a lot of cases. Now, the government has, in the past 4 or 5 years, has moved to a molecular-based, testing with the Cepheid and Malbio kind of machines. The issue with those machines and the technology is very good. Cepheid systems results are pretty good. However, the cost of the equipment is about 20K USD, and still the cost of test is about close to about $15. That is about close to 1,000 rupees, which is still expensive. Now, the new technology like LAMP, which is very easy to perform, yeah, it has got the similar kind of sensitivity and specificity, which probably would cost maybe one third, maybe half of it compared to an RT-PCR based kind of test like CEPID. And it could also do, currently it does only screening, but I think in the next couple of years, it can also do the resistance testing as well. And lab would be the choice for future TB screening, simply because it is more affordable, easy to use. Uh, One of the things is in a country like where TB population is very high, you don't require everybody's test should be screened for resistance testing. You require first a simple screening test, and then once those positives are identified, and those samples or those patients can be subjected to, let's say, resistance testing, you need not have to put every sample collected, a sputum sample have to have both screening and resistance testing. Thereby, one can reduce the healthcare cost. Today, it is costing a lot, but I'm sure that going forward with the LAMP technology, this will be much more affordable and easy to use across the country. Another one which is invented locally here by Agape over the years is special protein testing. Now, this is normally a clinical chemistry platform test, and this requires a very high value, high-end equipment normally to perform special proteins, because these are normally called done with immunochemistry markers, and they would require kind of turbidimetry kind of technology to perform it. And in the past, it was limiting this technology to bigger labs, medium-sized labs. But this innovation from Agape with small machines, but equally same quality of results, fraction of a cost in terms of the capital investment is concerned, and even the cost of test is much lower than what others would normally charge on a bigger systems. Making it even the smaller labs across the country can do special protein testing. And this special protein testing is very important, like CRP inflammation, RF or rheumatoid arthritis. So these are very critical parameters as far as diagnosis is concerned. For example, additional parameters like kappa, lambda for multiple myelomas. So these are parameters which otherwise cannot, in the past, could not be done by the small labs, are now able to perform it. Just due to the innovation which is happening, which is innovation which meant for Indian customers, and making it more affordable. If you move on to that, one of the areas which clear in the immunology is making a huge progress is invention of new biomarkers, as I said before. One of the examples I want to present here is Alzheimer's. Today, Alzheimer's is very much prevalent in India, 4 million people. We have a relatively high elderly population, 140 million. They become 250 million by another 25 years. The current diagnosis can be done only with MRI and CT scan. And this scanning is not convenient if you have to screen, let's say, a lot of people in plus 60s, and extremely difficult, but not cost effective at all. Would require special attention, right, for to do this MRI CT scan. Whereas the new marker like amyloid markers, what they call it as beta tau, beta amyloids, which is 40 and 41, these tests can detect very early currently with CSF, going forward with plasma. Now, advantage of this kind of tests, which are very simple to use, may take about 15 to 25 minutes in a simple plasma sample, and need not have to go through the pain of, in the using MRI machines, but also helps in very early diagnosis because these markers would start elevating very early because of the formation of these plaques in the brain cells. And these can be detected with clear type of technology is something which is going to be very exciting and very helpful for the population, especially the older people. Another area which CLIA is going to make a significant contribution in terms of technology is the emergence of new cardiac and cancer markers. One is anti-proBNP, which is very well known, HS high sensitivity tropi, which is much more sensitive than in the past simple tropi with CV less than 10% is what European Cardiology Society has recommended. And now HS top I is something which is the being asked by all the ICUs or emergency users. Another marker, other important markers like heart fatty acid binding protein, which is also getting popular in terms of myocardial infarction. Then you have HE4, EGFR. These are two markers will become very popular with cancer. Then you have Presepsin and also heparin binding protein for early detection of sepsis, and thereby, these two markers, if used early enough, then you will be able to predict the outcomes of sepsis in those patients, and doctors, physicians can provide the right treatment to save the lives. So these are very important biomarkers which are going to make a very significant, impact when it comes to some of these life-threatening diseases are concerned. Moving on the devices front, there are a couple of things which are happening. One is continuous glucose monitoring. But currently, this whole thing is dominated from the big companies. They are currently relatively expensive. Probably it will take some years become more affordable, right? And but these are the ones which are actually very helpful for patients' diabetes monitoring. Therefore, you can avoid the daily pricking with glucometers. Also, you can also save your records. And then when you visit the physicians, you would know that your glucose levels. These devices actually takes readings every minute or every 5 minutes or so. So it's very useful for the patient, physicians to get this data and decide a specific therapy regime for those, especially on insulin or even patients on non-insulin. But the challenge today is about the costs. But I'm sure that if somebody innovates this in India under Make in India program and make it manufacturing in India, and there's a big potential for this kind of innovation because India is definitely having more than 100 million diabetes, and this kind of innovative technologies it can be developed in India, although available globally. But surely that we need a cost-effective solution for these masses to use. Could be of great use for people suffering from diabetes. Another exciting area is next-gen sequencing. It is still very early days, which is more technology, which is basically used in life science research for sequencing or mutation sequencing, but it is steadily catching up even in IVD. So next-gen sequencing is something which would, what are the areas which this is going to make a significant impact, especially on the oncology side, cancer, diagnosis, therapy monitoring. How it is going to make this difference? I think NGS would help to identify the mutations of the particular patient is having it, whether it's breast cancer, is lung cancer, colorectal cancer, um, whether pancreatic cancer. Each patient will be having a different SNPs, which is single nucleotide polymorphisms. And because of these different SNPs, that individual drugs uh, which can be used on patients could vary. Some of these drugs are very expensive, and the physicians have to make a very selective choice. And NGS, especially in oncology, is helping the physicians to guide them to the right treatment for those patients, and thereby avoiding multiple drug therapy and saving a lot of cost. Besides that, ability to identify the SNPs of the patients would help the physicians to get the right treatment. And then once the treatment is going on, they will continue to measure the SNPs, and they can see that whether any changes have happened. So as such, the oncology area is very vast, and it would require enormous efforts if, with the traditional technologies to get with flow cytometry and other molecular pathology related ones. But the NGS is making a big change, and it's going to make a big change in the oncology area. This is my last slide, summary of this today's presentation. Medical devices and IVD segment is evolving with regard to local innovation and manufacturing is concerned. Focus and financial incentives from government is critical to support the innovation and manufacturing ecosystem. Local industry, academia, and technical collaborations are essential to develop talent and attract investments. New innovations in point of care and molecular diagnostics point of care shall enhance the reach of novel diagnostic tests to meet the unmet medical needs. India is an attractive market for healthcare and shall become a destination of choice for local and global firms. With this, I end my topic. Thank you so much for your attention. Very much appreciated.